Hi everyone, this is Rob from Intended Consequences. Our last video, the top 5 things motorcycle riders hate that car drivers do, earned us some very interesting responses, a great many of which pointing out the many ways that motorcycle riders also do things that car drivers hate. So, to avoid being biased, one-sided hypocrites on this topic, on this episode of Pursue the Ride, we are going to tackle this issue the best way we know how, another top 5 list. Hit the graphic. Number 5, illegal lane splitting. Internationally and in California, lane splitting is a common legal practice and encouraged. Drivers don't have an issue with it in those places, but lane split somewhere where it is neither legal nor common, and it's sure to irk some drivers. I've literally seen cars adjust their positions in their lane to prevent an approaching motorcycle from squeezing through. I've also seen videos where irate drivers will even open their doors to block a motorcycle's path. This stuff is dangerous. Aside from drivers intentionally being jerks, in places where lane splitting isn't common, drivers literally aren't looking for motorcycles cruising between them, and therefore things like just adjusting position in a lane slightly or changing lanes altogether can also put riders and drivers at higher risk. Look, as the proud owner of an air-cooled engine in the southern United States, I'll be the first one to tell you how miserable sitting in traffic in the summer can be. I've literally seen the heat from the engine burn Corinne's leg, and that's without even touching it. It's unbearable, folks. I know it is. But just up in lane splitting or racing down the road shoulder just to get out of traffic is to tempt fate for something worse. Instead, I say you just use your GPS and route yourself away from or around traffic jams altogether. Or you can move to California. Number 4, constant high beams. Rob, I hear you declare defiantly, I keep my high beam on for visibility. It's for safety, man. Oh yeah, you're visible all right. You are visible with your low beams on too. This isn't so much of an issue during hours of daylight, but high beams on constantly at night is more dangerous than it is safe. There's a reason most states have laws restricting high beams being directed into oncoming traffic. Blinding a driver racing towards you cannot possibly be safe, and as riders, we understand better than most how target fixation works, and surprise, surprise, car drivers also drive where they look. So when they're fixated on their high beam, well, that's not so good. Look, nobody likes getting blasted by high beams at night, so just don't do it. My advice is just use them the way they were meant to be used, at least in hours of darkness. Number 3, being annoyingly loud. Having recently uploaded a "Do Loud Pipes Save Lives" video, I immediately took a defensive stance to the accusation that some motorcycles are annoyingly loud. Some motorcycles are just loud, and that's the way it is. A lot of cars and trucks are very loud too. So yeah, I got defensive, what can I say? But motorcycles being loud by nature really wasn't the complaint. Instead, it was when the rider was intentionally loud, primarily with their music or with the rev bombs. Music really isn't an issue in the smaller bikes because they don't have speakers, but for those who might not know, the bigger bagger and touring motorcycles have external speakers so the rider can listen to their music while blasting on down the road. On the interstate, this probably isn't an issue, but drivers hate sitting at intersections next to a motorcycle blasting their music loudly for all to hear. As with loud music in cars, nobody likes that either, and motorcycles are no exception. Rev bombs are when a rider pulls the clutch and twists the throttle real hard, really fast, repeatedly, typically to show off to other people. Cars and trucks can rev bomb too, but obviously a Harley-Davidson rev bomb is far superior and more impressive than a Honda Civic with a coffee can muffler. It probably isn't too much to ask for us to turn down our music at red lights and to tone down the rev bombs. Unless of course you're passing a Buffalo Wild Wings where everyone knows that rev bombs are appreciated and actively encouraged. Number 2, poorly executed group rides. Alright, on a more serious note, poorly executed group rides have caused far more accidents and issues than anything else we've covered so far on this list. I have literally watched Corinne nearly wipe out because of a stupid group ride that A, we weren't even a part of, and B, was lucky Corinne was a damn good rider. And I'll explain that story in a moment. From a driver's perspective, they understand motorcycles often roll in groups, sometimes big groups, and it's better for everyone to stick together through an intersection. That's typically fine. What really gets drivers' heart rates up are group riders without blockers. So for those who might not be familiar, group rides with a bunch of riders, if done correctly, have blockers, who are riders that are pre-designated to get out ahead of the group and literally block traffic so everyone can get through an intersection quickly and safely. Sure, a driver could get annoyed that they have a green light, but a motorcycle is sitting in front of them so they can't go. But you know what? If everyone's doing things correctly, the group will still get through the intersection and on their way with little fuss, and then the rider can get on their way quickly, easily, no big deal. What's worse though is in that same scenario, but without blockers, the light turns green and the driver nearly takes out half a dozen bikes zipping through an intersection when they clearly have a red light. You know, as a rule, group rides without blockers or police escorts, they should follow the laws of the road just like any other vehicle. Again, I get drivers' annoyance at blockers, but at the end of the day, most are okay with motorcycles moving along and going about their ride or their business. It's better than the alternative of a mass accident. Which leads me back to what nearly happened with Corinne. We were riding down a hill with a couple SUVs in front of us. Ahead of those SUVs, an unorganized group ride was turning left at a stop sign, heading in our direction. Corinne didn't see the motorcycles coming out and the SUVs failed to start applying their brakes. They thought the group ride was going to stop at their stop sign. Realizing their mistake at the last moment, the SUVs slammed on their brakes and Corinne and I had to do some emergency braking of our own. Corinne's rear tire locked up and she went into an uncontrolled skid. But due to her skill and some luck, she kept her bike up and managed to come to a stop. Whew! The thing is though, her escape path was into the center of the road, and had she dropped her bike going down a hill, her bike and her would have slid right into the oncoming group ride and would have probably taken out at least a handful of their bikes too. Assumptions and poor communication almost led to a major motorcycle accident, and this scenario could play out nearly any intersection. Could also be averted by proper planning and execution of group rides. And drivers and other riders will appreciate that. Number 1, riding like a maniac. This one is killer, literally. We do this to ourselves, and every time some talking head gets on some media outlet or social media saying motorcycles are menaces on the road, these are the examples as to why. And it's kind of hard to defend too when it's true. We've all seen them. They're speeding, weaving through traffic, racing, wheelies at the most inappropriate times. We know who they are, and they're doing us, the motorcycle community, no favors at all. Look, I love going fast too. I'm even in the market for a sport bike. What did I say? Who said that? Anyway, we all love the speed. We all love ducking and weaving down twisty roads. We all love exploring the limits of our bike. And heck, there's even room for some dank nooners, but all of these things have a time and a place. On public roads and heavy traffic around pedestrians and other people is not the time or place. When we ride, we accept the risk that comes with it, but the people around us, the drivers, if you will, they're not interested in being at risk, and when some maniac rider puts them at risk, that's the sort of thing that's remembered and thrown in our faces time and time again. If you want to be a maniac on a deserted road where it's just you and your maniac buddies, go for it. But out on the streets, drivers hate it, and frankly, so do other riders. So that's it. The things drivers hate that riders do. The moral of this, and the last video, is that there are things that drivers and riders do to tick each other off. But the good thing is these are things that can be easily avoided too. So there's that. And also, like this list, there are things on this list that we are guilty of ourselves, so we acknowledge we have room to improve too. It'd be hypocritical to say any different. At least we can all agree that puppies are awesome. Anyway, listen out for me the next time you're sitting outside at B-dubs, and don't forget to be impressed at my mega dank rev-bombs. I was told to say that, I heard it was cool. I don't know. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Remember, keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and side note, we're uploading this video on Friday. On Saturday evening at 7 p.m., we will be talking with the Badgers on Facebook Live, so be sure to tune in for that. Links are in the description below.